Bill
Hang on,
Graham.
are we not? This is
All good, Karen?
Yep.
Okay, I'll declare the meeting open. Lovely to see some familiar faces, and I'll call for apologies. I don't think there's any at this stage, but are there any apologies?
Just mine if I disappear.
Yeah. Apologies.
Just temporarily. I'll come
Thank-
back in as best I can.
Yeah, thanks, Sue. Thank you. Disclosure of members' interest. Are there any members that need to declare? Oh, we haven't got Phil on here, have we, today? You there, Phil? No.
Yes, Phil's,
Yeah, he's
Phil's
there.
Oh, good. Are there any members who need to declare or stand down from a decision today? Any conflicts there? Thank you. Are there any late items that anybody needs to bring up? There being none, thank you. I'm happy to move the confirmation of the order of the meeting from the chair. I don't believe we've got any changes there. Someone second that, please.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carried.
Where are they?
Service delivery confirmation of the open minutes on the 17th of August. Just go through those for any additions, alterations or queries, please. Page 8. Anything on page 9? Got a fair bit on transport later on in the workshops. Good updates from Brian there. Page 10 and 11. 12. Page 13. Some road closures, which we've got as a junior item because of the changes. And the one at Kairangi, page 17 and 18. Okay. Confirmation of the open minutes, please. Mover and the seconder that they be a true and correct record. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Roger. All those in favour say aye.
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 Thank you. Go to tab 6 for water service activity report, and I'd like to welcome Martin. Martin, it's over to you guys.
Cool. Thank you,
Thank you
Chair.
very-
Yeah, good morning, Chair and councillors. So just take you through the water services activity report to the 31st of August, following up from the previous report in May. On the whole, take the report as read, and I'll just take you through a few notes along the way. So the first one is the flood hazard mapping. So we've issued all the letters, Hapo, Paronga, Cambridge and Tiamutu. And we're expecting that we sent almost, well, those 919 letters out. We're expecting there'll be less than 100 houses that are confirmed as liable to flood in the 1 in 100 year event. And we'll be bringing a report and a workshop to the October Service Delivery Committee to give you further details on that.
Great.
The detailed sub-regional wastewater treatment business case is due for completion late this month. Again, it's one of those rolling things. So the business case is all but finished. I think is in the final preparations, ready for it to be distributed to the governance group. And then there'll be a governance group meeting, and then it will come to council following that. So that might be October. Currently have 4 of our articulating staff have completed the backflow testing certification, with 4 more due to do the training this month, but that was cancelled for obvious reasons. And we'll be starting backflow testing shortly. Obviously, there's ongoing staff engagement with the DIA and Water New Zealand on the transition programme. And also, I think a report was circulated that the last financial year compliance was met for all of our water treatment plants for both bacteria and protozoa. We did have one zone that was non-compliant. This was the Pukarimu zone, and that was where we exceeded the maximum interval between sample days. So that's a technical non-compliance for the year for that scheme. And for this reporting period, 2 water treatment plants are non-compliant for bacteria, with all plants compliant for protozoa. And Purukurimu zone is non-compliant for July due to 2 positive E. coli samples within the RETIC. Evidence suggests safe water was provided. However, the incident is currently being investigated internally. And once we've got that investigation complete, hopefully we'll work with the District Health Board to have that non-compliance passed as compliant. And there's some further detail further on around those 2 bacteria non-compliances, which we'll get to in a little while. Item 3, water demand. So all schemes are currently showing typical demand patterns, but we are currently, it's predicted to be a long, dry summer. So we're starting to watch that carefully. And then item 4.3, again, linked to that is our summer campaign. So we will start working that in earnest in October with our Smart Water partners. And then weekly reporting will commence on the 1st of November ahead of the peak summer period. So we're just looking at our water restriction alert levels and do we continue with those or do we tweak them a little bit?
Through the chair, we've got a couple of hands
Yes,
up. I'm not sure if Martin, you're wanting to take questions through the report or.
Yeah, can do. Yep. So I wasn't looking.
I'm not
reading.
a lot of people, Martin. So can someone just yell out because I can't see all your hands? Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Claire,
Claire,
and then Bill, I
thank
think.
you.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Through you, Graham. Yes, the questions I had was around those non-compliances, Martin, really about the exceeding the maximum days for taking samples. Like, I would have imagined that would have been reasonably easy to comply with. So do you know what happened there?
Yep. So we carry out thousands of samples across the district over the year, and they're all scheduled at the beginning of the year. And we missed one of the scheduled samples was taken the next day instead of the day it should have been taken. So therefore, we exceeded the gap of the allowed gap between samples to be fully compliant. Yeah.
Oh, so it's only one day that
missed the sample by 1 day. Yeah. So it was a scheduling error. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And then you said you were going to give some more detail on the E. coli sampling later on in your report.
Yep. Coming up next. Yep.
Okay. And then I was going to ask about the rainwater harvesting. It's great that schools are getting involved, or you're going to be working with schools, and that you're looking at the outcome of the Hamilton City Council study. Is the Hamilton City Council one about private households having water tanks for rainwater?
Yeah, it covers the whole range of rainwater tanks, both private and non-private. So that report's due to be completed by the end of March. So we'll report, once that's complete, we'll report back to you on that. Yeah. Oh,
no, that sounds really good. I'm really interested in that. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Graham. That's it for me.
Thank you. Bill, are you there? Do you have a question, Bill?
Yeah, sorry, Graham.
No, all right.
Yeah, mine relates to 3.1, Martin. It says there Kiki production was lower than average. And so I just wondered what Kiki was doing that meant their average was lower. Have they been good in terms of water conservation? So I am interested to know, because it may be something we can do across the rest of the district if Kiki has managed to lower its demand. And the other point I'd like to make while we're on the Kiki side is that yesterday at Ngāiwi Tōpu, concern was expressed about the lack of consultation about the new pipeline, the water pipeline to Kiki.
Yep. So first, we haven't fully done any investigation of why Kiki demand's lower. So we can certainly look into why that may be. And then, on the Kiki new pipeline, the indications we had early on that there was only historical archaeological, post-colonial archaeological impacts, and the previous advice from Heritage New Zealand was we didn't need to consult with iwi on that, although that doesn't mean we shouldn't have done. But since then, they've now got a new person there who says we need to engage for all reasons. So that one fell through the the trap. And so we're playing catch up in discussing that.
Thanks for that, Martin.
Thanks, Martin. Any questions more at this stage to Martin? Thanks, Martin.
Okay, next one I was going to go to was the 5.4, which was the compliance report, where it talks of the Timutu and Parongia not being compliant and Ohapu and Pukurimu. So both those incidents relate to a lack of chlorine contact time. So the final part of the treatment plant is when you put the water into the reservoir, and you need 60 minutes contact time with the chlorine before it's released into the network. And both of those are data logging systems. Both had failures, so we couldn't prove we had those 60 minutes on first glance. So we're doing further work to obtain other data from other sources to show the District Health Board that we met those things. So we're still working through there, and we're hoping that they'll become compliant once we've got enough evidence to show the District Health Board. But at first, we have to report them as non-compliance to begin with until we've done that further investigation and found the missing data. And hopefully the new SCADA system, when that's complete, will remove those blips. Yep.
Hang on. Claire, can you too?
Yeah.
Thank you, Claire.
Yeah, thanks.
Start again.
Yeah, sorry about that. Thanks, Martin. So because there were the logging errors, like 2 of them, does that mean that the equipment is actually not very reliable? Are you keeping tabs on how old the system is that's used for the reporting? And because, I mean, it must be a real headache for you and your staff to actually try and find data in another form or from another source to comply. And I'm just, is there any idea about the reliability of the equipment itself?
Yep, so we do have some reliability issues, and that's why we've got the current SCADA and telemetry upgrade project, which is funded from the DIA fund, which is a $2.1 million project to completely renew all those services and the data collection. So our reporting data is the one that went awry. We send that off to a third party, collects it and reports in the cloud. That's what went missing. So we have got data on site that we store on site. So we're just going back and checking that shows we're compliant. Yeah.
And when will those equipment upgrades, that SCADA project, be completed?
So that's due for completion. This stage for the DIA funding is due to be completed by March, hopefully by February. Yeah, but there's ongoing improvements continuing for the next couple of years as well. But we should have got the data side of it and the SCADA side fixed. Yep. Excellent.
Okay, great. Thanks, Graham.
Thank you. Any more questions for Martin at this stage? Thanks, Martin.
Yeah, on this, there's one more on the reticulation zones where we had a non-compliance for Pukurimu. So E. coli was detected in 2 routine samples, and so therefore must be recorded as non-compliance. However, no evidence has been found to support a failure in the water treatment system or an actual contamination event. So once we get a high E. coli reading from the sample that goes off to the lab in Hamilton, they alert us there's a high E. coli. We then do an extensive follow-up sampling scheme over the next 3 days. We take 4 samples a day for 3 days right across the scheme to try and find any more E. coli. No further events were recorded. So therefore investigating on that, whether that was a contamination event due to sampling, or trying to track down how that occurred, because there was no other evidence of E. coli anywhere else. But again, it's one of those things, once you find E. coli, it is recorded as a non-compliance. Yeah,
a lot of technical stuff, isn't it, Martin?
Yeah, but we're extremely confident that the drinking water was safe to drink, and all the follow-up samples showed that.
Yeah, thank you. Great.
Yeah, and it did have the sample that they took at quite a high chlorine level, which would show that the E. coli couldn't have existed in that high chlorine
environment.
Sample. So there was something awry there, which we're still investigating.
Thank you.
And the next one is the Parallel Road water treatment upgrade. So we're currently in commissioning of that treatment plant. So we had the Karakia to in July, I think, or not. When was I can't remember when that was now. A while ago, and we're now commissioning, and hopefully this week we'll have shown the plant is capable of producing compliant water and be able to put it into service. There is currently an issue there with sand and grit coming up in the raw water, which is clogging up the pre-screens before the membranes. So we're still working through that, which means we can't put it in. It's designed to run at 12 megalitres a day, but we're currently only able to run it at 6 megalitres a day before those screens clog up. So that's still will be a contractual issue to continue working through, but we're hoping to bring that online either this week or early next. Currently, the water we're producing has to go to waste, so hopefully that will be ticked off as compliant at the end of the week, and we can put it into service in Tiamutu.
Martin, I've been watching in the dry sort of 6 weeks ago. Lake Taupo was only 150 mils from its minimum operating, and there wasn't a lot of water coming out of that lake through Mighty River Power. But as of yesterday, it's gone up about 1.2 metres. I know a little bit about the rainfall down there, having a farm down there. So I'm picking that the lower flow was allowing you to draw some grit and sand up. How do you feel about that?
Oh no, it could be, but it seems to be floating sand and grit, not settling. So yeah. I think it'll be an ongoing problem we need to resolve. Yeah.
Okay.
And due to the different nature of the treatment plant, we didn't notice it in our current plant, which is a different treatment process.
Okay.
But with the membranes, we're certainly noticing it and having to work on that. And then the Cambridge Wastewater Treatment Plant. So we're well into the working on the consent strategy and getting all the work together for the consent. We've got the workshop later on this morning on the preferred treatment option that we're looking at. And we're also starting on a lot of enabling works to get ready for when we do need to start construction. So there's those list of those 8 items there that we're looking at starting early called enabling works. So that there's removal of some of the geobags and for off-site disposal, identifying and diverting operational pipes within the treatment plant, removing redundant pipes and structures, putting some engineering fill in when we move those geobags, a lot of site remediation and native planting, removal of scrub and plant of natives along the bankside. We need to start screening the plant from the other side of the river with C3 coming along line. One of the resource consents will probably be screen planting. So the earlier we can get them in, the more established they'll be. And relocation of underground power cables and the relocation of the camper van dump station to a new location. So that will enable us to construct the plant without too many issues. And then stormwater hotspots. So the design of the rain gardens is complete, and we'll be looking to get a contractor on board to start that work during the summer period, construction period. So that's around the roundabout on Victoria Street in Cambridge.
Through you, Graham.
Thank you, Claire.
Yeah. Martin, we're really interested in those rain gardens. Would we be able to have a photo of it, or when it's working, or have a little report about its performance and that kind of thing?
Yep. So once they've been installed, we'll be reporting on how they're working. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yep. But we'll certainly at the next service delivery waters report, we'll cover that a bit more and show you the final designs. So you can see what they're going to look like. We're looking at having quite an education program around them as well when we install them. So like for the streets of people who have the boards up telling people what we're doing, we'll have those notice boards up, educating people of why we're putting the rain gardens in and how they work. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. And could I just ask a little question about the Cambridge Wastewater Treatment Plant, the relocation of the camper van dump station? Have you got an easy location to use instead of this site?
Yep, so we're looking at relocating it to the front of Mactasegden Drive. Do you remember the first site on the right where that old reservoir was?
Oh, okay. Oh, great. Yeah.
We demolished that reservoir a few months back, and so that's an ideal site to get it away from the treatment plant.
Oh, great. Yeah, because I imagine that it gets quite a bit of use. We have a lot of camper vans in the district.
It gets a lot of use, and it does cause when we're doing the short-term consent construction works, it caused a lot of issues with access and then being in a construction site. So it's deemed best to relocate it before we start the major works.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Thank you.
Martin, just in terms of the planting, has anybody thought about approaching the River Authority? They have funding available, and I think some plant propagation places and release plants, or is that all falling on ratepayers? I think you get quite a good hearing along there, being so close to the river and the aesthetics here. Yep,
so we're working with our Kaitiaki group and iwi partners and the River Authority on how best to do that. So we're talking to everybody.
Brilliant.
Yep.
Thank you. Thanks.
So that's about all I wanted to say on the point. Happy to answer any questions that haven't been asked already.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. Any more questions for Martin?
Yes, Graham, I do have another question. It's to do with the stormwater consent and how Pirongi is one of the lucky first ones. And I'm pretty, what would be the word, like the stormwater infrastructure that we have there is pretty basic. Like most of it's just open drains. And so I'm just a bit concerned that the project's going to identify perhaps some, like runoff contamination, or that it's not high enough quality. And I know that residents have been asking for years to have, a better system. But I'm just wondering what's going to be the outcome for Pirongia for that investigation work. Have you got any ideas, Martin? You're too early.
Too early to say till we've done the investigation work. But open drains are which are much better for the environment than piped stormwater solutions. So they do a lot of treatment in the open drains, and so they're a good.
So we might be a lot better off than what we think.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Claire.
Graham,
if there's no more questions or recommendations.
Yeah, Graham, sorry, my hand was up, but you missed it. Sorry about that. Hey, right. just on the issue of the water restrictions, or over the summer period, I'm just wondering whether we can make sure that all of our public communications is that it's for conservation measures, not because of lack of supply. Because it's probably just being a bit pedantic, but we've invested so much money in making sure that the quantity is okay. But now Cambridge was upgraded a couple of years ago, and now on the western side of the district, we've got enough. I'm assuming we've got enough quantity. The reason we're doing it is for overall conservation measures, not that we actually haven't got the capability. So it just needs a tweak, I think, to make sure that the emphasis is on good water management and, from an environmental perspective, as I say, not from lack of supply.
Yeah, most definitely. And that's what the tweaks we're looking at with our new capacity. We wouldn't meet our trigger levels for going into any alert levels unless we had a very severe drought. So we need another way of bringing out an alert level, which is an educational one, not a capacity one. So we still want people to conserve water. So we still want to go to some sort of messaging around water alert levels, but it's from that water conservation perspective, most definitely. Yeah.
Thanks, Martin. Further questions? Have I missed anybody? Okay, move in a second, please, for the recommendation to accept Martin's report. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Bruce. All those in favour say aye. Carried.
Aye.
Tab 7 is the contract signed under delegation. Recommendation there. Dawn, any issues there you'd like to raise? All good?
Kia ora koutou. No, I thought I'd just give a quick summary of the sites that are planned to be undertaken under that contract. So there is the renewal work for the existing boat ramp on Lake Ngāroto planned in there. There is a pedestrian bridge for at the Low Road Esplanade Reserve. Repair renewal work at Riverside Park in Cambridge and around a boat ramp and viewing platform there, and some timber stairs to create some better access down to the river at Waipoki Park. So they're the 4 key sites under that contract.
Thank you for that. Any questions to Dawn on that? There being none, there's a recommendation. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please, that the contracts under this delegated authority be received?
Happy to move.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Elwyn. All those in favour say aye.
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 Tab 8, request for temporary road closures, and somebody should be coming on board there with that.
I am here for that. Julie here.
Oh, hello. Hi, Julie. Can't see you on my dial. Thank you.
Okay, no worries. Yep, first one up is for Te Pūtake o Te Rere. It's a national commemoration of the Maori Land Wars, so it's a little bit different to what we have done previously, but similar to what was done in 2014 for the 150th anniversary.
Yep.
Kia ora, Graham.
Yes.
It's Bill here. Do
Bill.
I need to register a conflict here, or?
I can't see it, but somebody smarter than me would know.
I don't think so, Bill.
The next
No,
one,
yeah.
the next
No, I
one's
don't
running
think
out.
so,
The
no.
next one's running Alfia. So,
Yeah.
Ngāti Apakura does have a contract for hosting that, and I
Okay.
guess that's what I was thinking more about than this first one for Oraka. But I just wanted to, signal that.
Thank you.
Kia ora.
Appreciate it.
I'm happy to move the recommendation, Graham.
And I'll second it.
Okay, mover and a seconder. All those in favour say aye.
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 Thank you. Next one, Julie. This has been rescheduled, has it, because of the COVID, I understand. Is that right?
Yes, it was. It has already been approved by the councillors,
Yep.
but they've had
Yep,
to change the date because of uncertainty around
Okay.
gatherings and
Yep.
whatnot.
No public issues with that or any
Nothing's
concerns?
come through on that, no.
Thank you. There is A, B and C there, recommendations. If I could have a mover and a seconder, please. I'd appreciate that.
I'll move.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you,
Aye.
Andrew. All those in favour say aye. It's
Aye.
carried. Thank you. Tab 10, urban mobility business case. Moving right along. Morning,
Kia ora
Brian.
tātou. Thank you very much.
Julie, thank you.
Yep. So I also have Eric in the background there who would be available to answer any of the technical questions on the actual business case itself.
Okay.
But if I take the report as read and just cover off a few highlights in it here. So this is the business case we've been working on for the last 12 months, along with Waka Kotahi and through workshops with elected members and other representatives to come to this business case, which sets out the next 10 years of expenditure on walking and cycling and urban mobility in our 2 major towns. So they're just in that summary on the first page. The final funding is yet to be approved by Waka Kotahi, but it's in the National Land Transport Program and it's approved in the Regional Land Transport Plan. And we're waiting, for this endorsement today, and then Waka Kotahi to also do their final review of the business case before they announce their funding for it. While it's in Council's LTP for the 10-year period, it will be subject to those 3 yearly reviews and depending on our progress and the funding that we do get from Waka Kotahi. So the plan does cover the 2 major towns of Te Amutu and Kihikihi and Cambridge. It does not cover the smaller villages, but the same sorts of principles apply in terms of how we plan and implement walking and cycling infrastructure in those towns through other programs. there are some high-level priorities defined in the plan, and within the business case on pages 116 and 118, there are two maps of Cambridge and Te Awamutu, Kihikihi, and which show the priority routes, which are really around linking up our major schools, CBD, and major community facilities, and joining up parts of cycling facilities that already exist. But it's more than just, don't think that it's just cycling. It's not. It really is a plan that covers all active modes. So walking, those who are on scooters, people using mobility aids, these paths and things will link up retirement villages and all sorts of main destinations that people want to get to and go to, including shopping centres. It's more than just building infrastructure. It's also around the facilities that people need at each end. It's around cycle skills training and education and bike access schemes, so that we can get bicycles to groups in the community who might be disadvantaged, to make sure that there's equitable access. So that's what the business case covers. And then in terms of how we deliver that and how we communicate the messages to the public and how we work with the community to make sure that what we do meets the community need, meets users' demands. We want to have these working groups, which at a high level is an elected member working group, which is effectively a project steering group, which has oversight of the project. It will be a long-running project that, while the LTP includes 10 years of funding, this is something that will be virtually intergenerational in terms of making our towns accessible for active modes, for decades to come, to do everything that we need to do. So it does need to have a high level of governance and making sure it's steered in the right direction from day one. And as councillors have noted on other projects, we need to make sure that the community really understand what the goals of this project are, and that the needs of our communities are understood and they've got opportunity to participate in the planning and the delivery of it. So that mobility reference group can be made up of a number of different community groups and technical inputs from experts, for instance, within the disabled community or within our emergency service operations. We have interest groups like community cycling groups and community walking groups. We have obviously very large retirement villages and schools, and depending on where the project is and how we're working, those groups will need to be included in that planning and communication. So hence that reference group is likely to change over time and develop and include some members for some projects and different people for other projects. So then the attachments to this report include the mobility business case as it stands. So good opportunity.
Yeah, Roger's got his hand up, Brian. So can you just cover something in there, please?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Brian. As you know, really in support of the business case here, but there's a couple of questions that I have, which I might like some clarification on. One is on page 60. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
On page 67, where we've got the delivery program. You all right on that page?
Yes. So is it 67 of the agenda or
of your report of the business case?
Of the business case. Okay. Can you just look to the right, to the bottom of the page where the agenda page number is, so it'll help me find it faster.
117.
117. Thank you. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
When you're looking at all of those individual projects, you see CB7, Alpha Street, Dick Street, and Wilson Street. Now, when we had the walk around for Streets of People, and we were looking at that one-way congestion at the top of Duke Street, when we did our walk around, we actually identified that Dick Street was not suitable for a cycleway to go through there because of the facilities that are there on the Alpha Street, Dick Street intersection. What has changed that you've now put Dick Street back in there?
No, you're quite correct, Roger. This program here just basically identifies a corridor or an area. The detailed determination of which street it goes into and how it's done will be, remains to be determined. So this is just an indicator of the general direction of the corridor, so it gives us a length, which then feeds into the cost of the program. But the fact that for instance, CB5 shows it as being Grey Street as being the north-south connector, but we would also be looking carefully at whether Bryce Street was a better north-south connector. The important thing there is that it's in that general direction and we have the length, so we know what the cost is.
Okay. One of the options that was considered on that walk around was actually to put a cantilevered cycleway around the top of Duke Street that actually kept it away from the roading surface. Is that still a possibility? Because I'd like that as an option.
Yes, that's still a possibility. As we start to develop this is where we'd be working with the governance group and the reference group and looking at the various options and the likely costs and the benefits or the pros and cons of each option and sharing that with the community. So those are all areas that would be fleshed out as the program gets underway.
Great. Can I now take you back to our agenda, page 113, and your report, page 63, the improved accessibility and mode share.
Yes, I'm at that page. Thank you.
Right, good.
Yep.
Now it's great because you've set some targets there. You're saying that currently the mode share is for Cambridge 10.6. Can you further define that 10.6 of what of 100%? So what's the 100% quantum that 10.6% is of? Am I making that?
Right. I think I know the answer to that, but I'll ask Eric if he wants to just intervene here.
Okay, thank you, Chair and Councillors, Brian. So that's 100%. It includes basically car trips and bus trips.
Car trips and bus trips.
Yep.
Do we know what is the quantum then of the 100%?
In terms of volume?
Yes.
So this is based on the census data in 2018.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
so this data doesn't correlate the quantum, but we have traffic counts for most of our roads, and you can infer that percentage from our traffic counts.
Okay. So what I'm trying to get at is that over the term of this strategy, which is 30 years, isn't it, to 2050?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
You're talking about moving from 10.6 to 15.7 for Cambridge, which is good. That's quite aspirational to get a 50% increase in the modes. But in terms of the quantum, you see, what I'm trying to determine, we're putting a lot of store in achieving mode shift from private vehicles onto walking and cycling. And over that, 30 years, we're going up by 5%. But my challenge is that I don't think that that mode share to 5% is really effectively going to lower too much the level of traffic that's going to be in Cambridge, particularly when we've got the huge population increase in C1, C2, C3. And that's why I'm trying to get a quantum. What are we talking about? Even if we talk and say, you know, the population's 20K, and you're talking about a 5% movement of more.
If I can just sort of point out, so the 5% is based on the Waka Kotahi. They've got an analysis system, an economic analysis system that gave us that number, and it's not necessarily what we're aspiring to. There's another part of the report, and I can't quote the page number, where we aspire to a mode share of 20% cycling and 10% walking, and that's what we intend to design to. So that 5% is a very conservative number that's kind of brought about by just that we have to adhere to a certain analysis with the Waka Kotahi rules.
Yeah, even if it's 20%, which is very aspirational, and I certainly support that, but I still don't think it's going to compensate for the increase in traffic that we're going to get from population growth.
Yeah, I think, Roger, the that area of estimating future traffic volumes and mode is really going to come through in the transport strategy. It's probably not, it certainly not intended to be the subject of this business case here.
Okay, right. So we've got to rely on the transport strategy, but my understanding is that transport strategy has now been delayed by a further 4 months.
There is some delay around getting that traffic modelling work complete and analysis done, yes.
Yeah, that's a real concern to me, because Justine is leaving, so is that going to be a project without a leader?
No, Rachel Algar is still there and is the primary mover on that project, so that will continue.
Okay. I'd still like some quantum on those figures. If Eric, you could put your mind to trying to get some quantum so that we can, have a good understanding of what those targets are, because we're putting a lot of money into urban mobility, and I think we need to have the confidence that that's actually going to give us some benefit in terms of the overall transport network. Is that possible?
Yeah, more for individual routes, I think. For example, the Hamilton Road Cycleway, we've designed that for a peak hourly flow for cycling of 500, and it determined the width and the style of facility. The other thing in this is will be passenger transport, not in this report, but in terms of mode share. And the other, I guess, thinking behind the aspiration of 20%, that's absolutely huge. So I think Christchurch have only got an 8% mode share of cycling, and they've invested a lot of money. But there's European cities which have probably got close to 40, 50%. So I think 20% cycling is all we can hope for, to be honest. But I don't think we could achieve more unless e-bikes become really cheap or some other technology.
Yeah, I think we do also have to be mindful that a lot can change in the coming decades, and obviously climate change and other drivers are there. But on page 112 of the agenda, there are some KPIs because the benefits more than just increasing the number of people walking and cycling. There's health benefits. There is a reduction in deaths and serious injuries. So improving the safety for walking and cycling, and accessibility for those people who don't have cars and the like. So yeah, I think we should focus on all of the benefits that come from this program.
Yeah, I go back to my initial statement to say I'm really in support of the urban mobility strategy. No problem with that. It's just I'm worried about the other impacts on the overall network. So thanks, Ryan.
Question from Mike.
Thank you, through the chair. Hey, just a general question in terms of working in with this network, and I'm looking at page 118 of the agenda. Is probably the easiest to sort of put this into context. I received a letter and received several comments, but this one's from a lady called Gabrielle, and I'll just leave her last name out. But she's a parent of a school, and I'm not saying our school at all, but of a school of some young children, and they want their children to cycle, and it fits in perfectly with the strategy. However, she's sort of talking on behalf of the people on the southern side of Shakespeare from Leamington, and it gets back to these pedestrian crossings or safe crossways, and she's likened it to something like outside St Andrew's Church, where there's that sort of middle safe ground in the middle of the road, a refuge, etc. And she's done a little map here, which if I just put there, sort of, and so I've marked them in yellow, and she has put 3 in, but just basically north and south of the Cook Street, Shakespeare Street roundabout, just asking, is there any chance that we could fit in, but sooner rather than later, some safe ways for children, but families, adults can actually cross Shakespeare Street to get towards the high level bridge. Yeah, so just your thoughts on that, Graham. Sorry, your thoughts on that. Brian.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. No, that is a good point. We know that a lot of children from Leamington walk and cycle, and that's both to the middle school and the college, as well as primary schools. And so getting good crossing points is an important plank of the urban mobility business case. So while we've on that map highlighted the routes which will, have prime use and importance to get developed early, we're certainly not ignoring aspects like getting good crossing points on Shakespeare Street. Yep, we can look at that as part of the program and see how well it fits and how we should prioritise that. So, yep, we've certainly got an open mind to that.
Right, just a last comment on that is just that Safe Ways to School project done back in, I think, 2018, really did highlight some safe ways to get across that road. And as a council, I guess, we still have not addressed that sort of 3 years on. So I think it's quite a priority outside of these plans here. I think it is actually a real safety priority for the people in Leamington to get at least one access across that Shakespeare Street towards that roundabout. Thank you.
Question from Phil.
Yeah, thanks, Graham, and thanks, Brian and Eric. Yeah, just sort of following on a little bit from Mike. We won't see really supportive of urban mobility, and we won't see the real success of it until the network's rolled out a bit more over the next couple of years, and all that. There's going to be quite an emphasis on the northern side of Cambridge, so yeah, we can't forget Leamington as well. And also really supportive of this community group coming together to get their views and buy-in from the community, and then that'll be a lot more successful then. With Hamilton Road, understandably it's come to a halt with COVID, but Eric's mentioned that the traffic lights are going to be completed. They're an Auckland contractor, so now that they're in level 3, or will be tomorrow, they are able to get out and about and get that job completed. So that's really encouraging, and it's great to see all the grass is growing well there, and the cones are up and things like that, because a lot of comment about the orange, an orange cone town. So it's good to see that that's gone too. So thank you.
Marcus, thank you. Marcus.
Zoom issues. Yeah. Sorry.
No, you got it off again.
Gone again, Marcus.
Marcus, you got
Technical issues. Now I've lost my page number. That's okay. I was just okay. I can't remember which page it is on, but the representation. I noticed on there that you've got CCS disability, Brian. But what about actual local businesses like Connects You Trust and Te Amuru that support many range of people with disabilities and use the roads, and they're active in our community? That would be a better fit, I think, than a disability group and like someone that doesn't live locally, about assessing the needs of cyclists and stuff for people with disabilities in our towns. And what about interacting or having a member of the group of the cycle group that goes around town? Can't remember the official name, but the group of locals that want the Prongia Cycleway on, have they been, are they going to be part of the reference group as well?
You're right, Marcus. Those are ideal groups for us to reach out to become part of that reference group. So certainly the likes of Enrich or Connects You will have some good local knowledge, and so we can certainly include them in the reference group at different times. We mentioned CCS disability just simply because they have sort of trained auditors who will look at projects and sites and give council some really good advice for catering for people for a wide range of disabilities. So they've got that professional advisory role to local government.
Brian, Graham here. I'm a little nervous about what we're going to get cut back in terms of dollars from NZTA, and I'm presuming there's no allowance for any cutback in the Waipa District Council budgets. So will the two groups that are going to be formed, along with you guys, have to prioritise which projects get cut back or pared back, or who miss out in terms of the money going forward?
Yes, I guess that's, we'll know a bit more about that once the Waka Kotahi have, been through the business case in detail and given us their final determination. I think we just have to wait and see. I'm hoping that they'll fully fund the program for the next 3 years. There is obviously a lot of emphasis on that nationally.
Yep. We can cover it a little bit more anyhow in the workshop where you've got some more definitive figures, Brian, anyhow, if you want to.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Roger, are you the next?
I think actually Liz had a hand up before, and I'm just wondering whether I should defer to Liz, because we might be talking about the same thing.
Okay, Liz, come in.
Liz.
Yeah, I've got my video on, but maybe I'm down the bottom somewhere, Graham. I'm not sure. Hey, who knows? Hey, look, firstly, Dawn and Brian and Eric, hey, thanks really so much for championing the governance and reference group. I think this is going to be something really quite special. And the other, I guess, part of this is that in recent times we have seen our community a bit split on some of the projects that we have been initiating. So this is going to be a really good opportunity to hopefully engage a whole lot better with our community. So one of my questions is around, do we have a budget for engagement with our community? Because I think that that's going to be, really important, a comms plan around that. And the second part, I guess, in regards to the specifics around the governance and reference group, there has been a request from, I guess, those who've been involved with the Streets for People project, who are potentially keen to go onto the reference group. They want to see at least one or possibly two members from the reference group be made part of that governance group. And I know this is a little bit tricky because, this governance group, I guess, are going to be kind of decision-making group. But if we want to really provide, I guess, a direct line of contact from that reference group and make them feel like their voice counts, I'd be really supportive of engaging at least 2 members from that reference group onto the governance group. I think it would be a really good sort of show of faith that we are listening and we're interested, in what that governance and what that reference group has to say.
Yeah. Ultimately, that is very much a political decision, I believe. I guess the council and the service delivery committee will make decisions if they are, if they are controversial, or if the governance group and the reference group can't decide amongst themselves. There will be, I think we see it around the country, walking and cycling projects can create some community angst and division at times. And so communication is really important. And I think the big picture goals, often the communications are all about we're building this particular cycleway here, or this new crossing here. But the big picture goals of what's trying to be achieved by the total program is sometimes not seen. And so I think it's going to be really important to do that. And being able to get the information out through this reference group to a really wide audience will be really important. But I guess I do caution that if we have part of the reference group is part of the governance group, then how do you pick those people? Because it's going to be, I guess, fraught with difficulty in deciding who is going to have the say at that table. But the reference group as a whole really should be treated equally, that we are hearing from all of those different community groups, all of the different user groups, and weighing it up equally, rather than 1 or 2 reference group or representative groups having more say than others. So it could be quite a difficult thing to balance that. But that's why I'm a technical person. I leave that side of things to the political arm to make those decisions.
Thanks, Brian. Brian, look, I totally hear where you're coming from there. I guess what I'd like to see, if possible, is at least speaking rights for a person from the reference group into the governance group. I think once the reference group gets up and running, there will be probably some obvious people who may be able to join, and be that spokesperson. So I think it'll perhaps become obvious anyway who might be representative to come onto the governance group. And I just want to reiterate as well for those members of the public who are anxious around some of the projects, and not everyone is supportive of the walking and cycling situation, is that we do want people on that reference group who are going to challenge us and the rest of the reference group members around what will work and what might not work for our towns. So those people, I guess, have been quite active on Facebook. Well, this is your opportunity. We want to hear from everyone here.
There's lesson learned. We need to be up front at the start, not halfway through and get caned. Roger.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Graham. I certainly support Liz's view about having either 1 or 2 from the reference group onto the working group. I think one of the lessons that we learned from Streets for People is, although the community members were engaged in the initial project definition, when it came to the implementation, then they were actually not engaged as well, perhaps, as they could have been. And I think, the communication needs to be 2 ways. So not only the working group talking to the urban mobility, but the reference group, but the reference group actually being aware of what the discussion is around that working group table. So if it's a political decision made by the service committee that we are now, then I would really like to see a decision made to have that representation on the working group, if it's possible. Does that decision need to be made now by us?
If I could just offer some advice here. So the terms of reference will certainly give the sort of the steering group or the political arm quite a bit of flexibility as to how they run meetings with the reference group and how many meetings are combined meetings or separate meetings. So I would suggest that you would have a lot of freedom and ability if you adopted it as it's listed at the moment and then trial it and see how it goes. As I say, this is a project that's going to run for 10 years and greater. So there's plenty of opportunity to work out how it works best and to adjust it as we go along.
Brian, in terms of the recommendation C, it does have the WIPA urban mobility governance groups. So it covers, I don't know that it wants altering. Can anybody see something needs altering on that? Or do you think that wording covers what the councils have been trying to get across? Liz, Roger, no, Jim? Susan?
Look, I'm going to probably offend people. Oh, sugar, sorry, I just put my thing on there. Probably going to offend people with this statement, but I guess it's probably more symptomatic of the bigger issue in terms of elected members and lack of diversity perhaps around our tables. But I suppose, like, I'm a little bit anxious, and it's probably not avoidable, around the elected membership on this particular working group. And it's nothing personal. It's more about the fact that this is a project that purports to focus on connectivity to schools and understanding a lot of the dynamics in that. And realistically, we've only got 2 people on there who actually have school-aged children. And I guess I'm not trying to throw hurl abuse at anybody or criticism, but it's just a bit disappointing we can't have members around that, or more representation from an age group of people who probably have a closer connectivity and understanding of the real life challenges of those of the things we're trying to address, I guess, in terms of the connectivity of these networks. Can't be avoided, but it's more an observation.
Got a comment, Mike?
Yeah, thanks for that, Susan. Look, hey, I think when this was put together, I was off with my sort of head injury, and I think I missed that meeting or two. So I don't think I'm on that, but I expressed, being keen on. First of all, am I not on it? I better confirm that.
You're not on it, and
Yeah,
and you're probably a fairly obvious person I would have thought to have considered for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, and in lieu of having lots of younger, family representatives around our council, it's probably something that we really ought to have considered, I would have thought, and I appreciate that you were may have been offline at the time. But I don't know, it's just an observation. When you look at the whole intention behind this project, doesn't it make sense to try and place people around the decision-making or guidance table who actually have a more day-to-day hands-on understanding of these challenges?
Yeah, well, Mike, you got that contact from the lady in Leamington, and obviously she saw you as the first port of call as the headmaster, so it makes some sense in that respect.
Yeah, hey, and I'm always have been more than happy to be on that group. I mean, I'm obviously involved in schools as well as a counsellor, but I'm pretty vested in it. And also, obviously, I'm tied into the Cambridge Principals Association, so there's a pretty natural link there as well.
True. Anything else, Liz?
Yeah, it does make sense, Mike, for you to be on that group, and I guess we'll just we're a little unsure as to whether you were happy to to participate. So if you are, I'm wondering, Graham, I think you might have said to me the other day that you were happy perhaps not to be on that group, because we will need to confirm people today, won't we?
Yeah, I don't mind at all. I don't want it to be over governance, put it that way.
So page 170 in the agenda has got that group membership
So if you both are happy to do a swap out, perhaps.
Yeah, comfortable, very comfortable with that, Mike. Do you want to take my place?
Yes, yeah, I'm happy with that, Graham. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other changes envisagers?
Graham,
Yes.
I just wanted to make a comment, though, in listening to all of the other comments, that probably a large percentage of pick up school kids and have things to do with the school in this day and age. There's a lot of grandparents that are in these, that they, I think they don't need to be crossed off the list for or just be aware that there are grandparents there who do the pickups and probably attend school because school dues, because and they also use walkways and cycleways and depending on where they're at. Just it's not all young people. There are the seniors are there helping as well and have opinions.
Yeah, we're all councillors. Okay, so can we go to the Roger?
Yeah, could I just take us back to that discussion point about whether we have a couple of members of the representational group on the working group? When you look at what Susan was saying about having somebody with a little bit of a younger perspective, I mean, I've got to agree to that, but having elected people from the representative group that actually reflect that interest onto the working group would actually meet Susan's concern there, having that, representatives on the group. So I think that's another reason why we should bring that couple of people from the rep group onto the working group. It adds a different perspective to our council representation.
Yeah, I agree, Roger, 100%.
So are we going
Graham,
to, do we know who we're adding? Yeah, Jim.
Oh, I was just going to say, is it just from today's perspective, is just making sure that working group membership has got the power to co-opt, so that, because as it's been said already, this is going to be going on for a long time. So giving the ability for the working group to actually co-opt people from the community is probably an advantage.
Yeah. And just on that, I think we'll be swapping people in and out based on a project by project and a town by town basis as well. So as we might be working in a specific area of town or a particular school, I think it's important we can bring in those particular interested parties. So yeah, fully agree, Jim. We need to be able to co-opt people on a regular basis, because I think it will be something will be happening on all the time.
I agree. As you go along a specific route, you pick people up and drop people off as you go along as the project unfolds.
Yes, because it's going to be it's not going to be all happening across the district at the same time. So getting the people that are relevant at the time on the committee is probably the best way to go, and it'll work around the problem of the argument about how they've been selected, I suppose. At least that there'll be a justifiable reason, I suppose, for co-opting at certain points along the journey. So I think just as long as we make provision there for the people to be co-opted for their relevant knowledge and experience at the time, and particularly with all of the I suppose the decision-making power actually coming back through this committee anyway. It's an advisory board, so let's make sure that we get the right people on the advisory board so that we get around some of the conflicts that we've had with the other projects that have been going on.
I'm happy.
So, Jim, do we need a little bit of a tweak on C to be able to have the power to co-opt? Or?
Yeah, I think that would be all that would be necessary, and then those recommendations are okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can you pick up something, Jenny, that might be suitable?
That also gets us through elections.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
If we don't get voted back on the island.
Are you there, Jenny?
Could I perhaps suggest, Graham,
Yeah, thanks,
we
Brian.
alter the wording to say the Service Delivery Committee approves the terms of reference with the addition of being able to co-opt community members
onto the urban wide.
Yes, onto the what's the term? Onto the governance group.
Urban mobility governance groups. Yeah. Has Jenny picked that up? I'm not getting anything from her. No. Hell.
Technical glitch there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jenny, are you there, Jenny?
I lost you and you lost me. Yes, I do.
Okay, Brian's got a little alteration to the recommendation in paragraph C.
Right. So we had the Service Delivery Committee approves the terms of reference with the ability to co-op.
Yes, thank you.
What was
just the ability to co-opt onto the Waipo urban mobility governance groups. It's fine like it reads.
I think they had community representatives.
Yes.
To co-op community representatives onto the Waipo urban mobility governance group. Lovely. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Happy to move that, Graham.
I'd be happy to second that as well.
Yeah, Michael moves that and Roger seconded it. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
So, yeah, thanks, Brian. Fantastic. Can we go on to your next one, the Southern Links designation land access, Brian? Thank you. We're not badly affected by this, but we are an interested party. So looked pretty good legal and a common sense thing to have before us.
Yep. If I can take it as read then and just answer any questions.
Thank you. Help councillors, Parongia councillors, anybody?
Just a quick question from timing, Brian. Is there any sort of timing of any works?
No, there's no timing at this stage. And I think it's left quite open deliberately because obviously Waka Kotahi have a budget to purchase land for the Southern Links designation, but they don't have any budget for construction. So it really is an option creator type MOU, and it will really depend on the owners of the property in the area and any plans they might have to to seek to do some development, which would then generate the need for this local road to be created.
Brian, I'm happy to move it from the chair. I think it's well written and it's common sense stuff.
Yeah, happy to second, Graham.
Okay, so I'll move. Jim seconded. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
We go to the waste minimum delivery review, and we should have Sally here. Sally, are you on board?
Yes. Hi, everybody.
Thank you.
Can
and
you hear
Brian,
me?
will you just stay with us for the workshops after this? Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Sally. Lovely to have you on board.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. It seems like it's been a long time no see, but we're here virtually, so thanks for having me.
Thank you.
So first of all, just wanted to open it up and say, was there any questions or comments on the previous year's reporting, which was the appendix to the report? Happy to answer any questions or comments on that. No?
Oh, I need to say, Sally, that from all the publicity that we've had about what's going into the bins, there seems to be a lot more people who need to, can I say, be a bit smarter about what they put in the bins.
I know, it's our big challenge, isn't it? But we'll keep chipping away at it.
Yeah. Good on you.
Yeah, so just looking forward for this year that we're currently in. We're obviously already a couple of months in, but appreciate the time to get in front of you today. So just a bit of quick context that most of you will probably know because you've been around a wee while, but we've got about 15 waste minimisation and management planned actions. 2 are rates funded, which is the curbside recycling and the litter and the illegal dumping, and all the rest come from the levy from the government, the waste levy. That is kind of like not a fixed amount. It's per tonnage to landfill per capita, but we usually get between 180 and about 205,000 a year. And so once we take away my position and admin on costs and the community funding, yeah, we're working with a small operational budget, but enough to get all this stuff done. And when I'm developing this year's program, I always look back at the reporting that we've already done on the previous 4 years of the waste minimisation and management plan, and trying to find areas that have been under-delivered and generate opportunities to make something happen in those spaces. I'm also closely following what the ministry is up to, because they're moving very fast right now, and making sure that we're following along and supporting their directions. And also I'm always looking regionally or with our closer neighbours, particularly the Regional Council, Hamilton and Waikato District Council, like what can we work together and maximise our delivery. So that's what I do when I'm like looking forward, and that's how I fed into the program that you see in for the Forward program for 2021-22. Would you like me, Graham, to go through all those, or just take it as read and answer any questions?
Yeah, I think take it as read and ask any questions, Sally.
Yeah, any questions on the Forward program for this current year?
Graham, I've got a few questions.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, well, firstly, congratulations, Sally, because it is a great program and I think you do excellent work. The biggest issue I have is that with our new subdivisions and growth, that we're looking at a lot more compact housing, and those houses don't have room for composting or ways to sort of deal with waste on site. And I think I picked it up in the residents' perception survey, really, and I wonder if you could put it on your a list somewhere about how we might deal with that, because it seems to me that we'd need some sort of community composting or food waste
solution.
Specifically for those compact housing areas. Someone I was talking to, they said that they have their waste collected once a week or once a month. Like they put their food waste in the freezer until it's collected, and it's a council service, I think.
Okay.
And I know that Auckland had that sort of self-contained, secure food composting installation, or I don't know what you call it, model that restaurants used. But whether or not we could look at a way for providing that, because I do think it's going to be something that we'll need in the future. Maybe not right now, but we should be.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right with the future trends of denser housing. And I just was in a webinar with the ministry, and they've done a bit of work around composting, and they did a survey and they found that 25% of houses have no garden at all. And they didn't say it's not just Auckland, they said it was all around New Zealand. So that is definitely a future trend. Yes, I'm also following along. I think it's I forget the area. It's kind of like Central Otago. I don't know the council name, but they're doing a community composting hub pilot through some ministry funding. So I'm definitely contacted them yesterday, even just coincidentally, to say what's your plan? What does it look like? Can we have a read? So definitely keeping my eye on all of those things as we, hopefully look forward to doing some solution for food for ourselves. But and also very well linked into the Regional Council has put into the ministry for funding to do some research onto different options of food. So looking at, curbside food collection, local composting, all that kind of stuff. So they're going to be pushing, hopefully, if they get the funding, they'll be pushing forward some research, and that will really help us instead of us having to generate the answers in Otorohanga and South Waikato and stuff. So that will be very good. But definitely I've made a note of that. And send me the link from the perception survey if you can, Councillor St. Pierre, or I can.
Well, it was in the debate and comments. Actually, there were quite a few about not being able to compost food or don't know how to deal with my food waste.
Okay, and, I'll have a look. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Graham?
Yes.
Just along with what Claire was indicating there, Sally, communal gardens in terms of communal living spaces. I think is what we would look at in a marae setting. And I just wonder whether when developers are looking at doing those multi-complex developments, whether as council we should be thinking about a communal garden space.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I think maybe it's something I need to connect closer with the name of the team is the development engineering team, and kind of saying what within our current plans can we ask of our developers, because I understand about density and stuff, but having enough space to get a normal truck in there and actually provide service rather than having them so narrow that they can't be serviced is something. But and saying at that time, is there any communal space or planning for, just fresh vegetables to, provide something for people. Hamilton City Council has done quite a bit of work on that space, and they're quite connected in, and they work at the development stage and saying, for this many houses, to have council service, you'll need this much space for the bins and put in a communal bin area and that kind of stuff. So they're working at that kind of level. Yeah. Cool. Anything else?
I saw a shopping program the other night where the lady of the house went to the supermarket 21 times in a week. So probably a little bit more selective shopping may not provide more stuff that needs to be collected. This was quite stunning. Bruce.
I know, it's amazing. We all think that everyone acts like us, but we do have a huge variety in our community. So I think we've talked about this before, Councillor Webber as well, that the intricacies of food waste are so complex, because it's the shopping, the cooking, the planning, the eating, the re-eating, the leftovers. So we'll keep working on all that stuff. Just the last little thing I wanted to comment on is just to give everyone a heads up that we'll be starting to develop a new waste minimisation and management plan. So we do have 2 years to go, but we have to do a big chunk of work for a waste assessment. So that's a 6-yearly document where we would look at the limited data that we still have and from our private companies to try and build a picture of how we're going. And then, so that will take us a chunk of time. And then next council year, we'll spend that drafting and consulting and going through the normal process with everybody. But just to put that out there, that we'll be wanting to talk a lot more about waste and engage everybody in that conversation. And I also will just send out in your Friday update, the ministry has just put out a waste action plan. It's not too long, but it really will give you a good idea about what's happening, because there's so much happening in this space. They're rewriting the Waste Minimisation Act, and the Litter Act they're joining. They're rewriting the strategy. The levy has increased and will be expanding in the next financial year. So it's a nice little summary for you to see where the direction of the ministry, and of course that's who our funder is. So it's good for us to be aware. So I'll make sure you get that link.
Okay, Bruce, thank you.
Sally, at the recent Parongia ward meeting, a comment was brought up that during lockdown and the recycling was collected, but it couldn't be processed and went straight to landfill. Now, the comment was that I would have saved some of that. I know everyone's not going to do that. If I'd only known, and I think that's quite ignorance from the public. They wouldn't have a clue that it was just going straight to that, thinking that people may be working and picking up. Could something be done in that line to inform the public if they want to save it, do it? I don't know.
We really considered that very carefully, and we decided not to fully publicise that decision. It was in the FAQs, but just because we're struggling so much with contamination, that people are using, about 10% of our community are using it for general rubbish, we didn't want to further that. And I know the commenter from Parongia, she's very conscientious, and if everyone was like that, we would trust everybody to hold their recycling and do that. But unfortunately, we're so struggling with contamination, we felt like just linking the recycling bin and landfill was just opening up that door, and quite a few other councils did do that. But even more so, they said in the first big lockdown, like Christchurch and Selwyn district, they said because you can't recycle, just chuck everything in your wheelie bin if you need extra rubbish space. And they have had massive issues. It's taken them to about now to pull their contamination back. So so we just really wanted to just try and keep the good behaviours that we do have for the most of the community going, and kind of protecting that recycling wheelie bin is quite a precious thing that needs to be quite clean, you know, because that's our biggest struggle.
Yeah. Oh no, that's good.
Jim, did you want something? No, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you through the chair. Hey, just a shout out to the urban miners, who are a young organisation run by experienced individuals, and that I know they collect through the at Cambridge High School site there. It's once a month. I'm not sure if they do other collections too, but really just trying to promote the good work that they're doing, because that recycling, you see it at the transfer station at the dump there, and it gets put to the side. I'm not quite sure what happens from there, but it's just a really good service that I know some of our community know about, but promoting the good work that those folk are doing would be really advantageous.
Yeah, thank you. Mike. So yeah, I'm really well connected with them, and we've just given them another bit of funding to get a trailer so that they can help the Te Amuru side and keep it all the kit together. So that's going to be a big support for them. And yeah, I think they're extremely good at what they do. So I'm really proud with that, where they've come from, and I'm really hoping that as product stewardship for e-waste is already become compulsory, and they're developing the scheme, that they'll become our kind of local supplier. So then that will make them more self-sustaining, because they'll actually get the money from the system rather than the people. So yeah, so I'm still holding that space that they'll be able connect into the compulsory product stewardship scheme for that the government is putting in place. Yeah.
Excellent, Sally.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Yep, thanks, Graham. Thanks, Sally. As some of you will know, some of you will know, urban miners are looking for a PR person as well. It's a voluntary role for a couple of hours a week to do their Facebook and PR and social media and things like that. So I've spoken to a couple of the ladies at the eyesight, but they're out for the lookout for a PR person to do social media and things.
Thanks, Phil. We have a recommendation if there are no more questions to Sally.
Lou's hands up.
Thanks, Bill.
Lou's hands up.
Yeah, can you hear me, Mr. Chair? I've got problems with my computer, so I've got no video and a lot of other things not going well here.
We can't see you anyhow, but go ahead, Lou.
Yeah, so I apologise for that. Look, I just want to support the urban miners, and they're having their collection on the 3rd of the month. That's the 3rd of October here in Te Amuru, and it'll be at Te Amuru Sports. So I just wanted to emphasise that. And as Philip just said now, I know that the local Rotary Club are looking at helping with that PR a little bit. There's a couple of chaps that might be able to give them a bit of time out of that. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think we're getting right to the point where we can share a bit more about them, because they're just getting into the regular collection for Cambridge and Te Amuru. So that could be time. Maybe I'll work with them and help them out with a little bit of a newspaper ad. But also, I'd just say to all the councillors and anyone who's listening, get on the Waipa Urban Miners Facebook page, and you can share events. So they have events listed on there, and you can open that event up and share it. And that's a really good way to kind of promote the upcoming events. Yep.
Thanks, Sally. Love your passion. Michael, are you moving the report?
Yes, moved.
Thank you, Michael. Another seconder, please. Thank you, Claire. All those in favour say aye. Against, carry.
Aye.
Very much. We will
See you later.
now.
Bye, Sally.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. We'll move into our workshops.
No.
Just not for a minute.
No, I think it's